The spring home buying season is here, but is it really the best time to jump in? With mortgage rates shifting, inventory changing, and buyer competition heating up, you need to know what's happening in the Omaha market right now. Stay tuned because I'm breaking it all down and we're going to get started right now. Just for context, we'll be talking about Douglas and Sarpy County, Nebraska. For Douglas County, this includes the city of Omaha, the towns of Ralston, Bennington, Waterloo, and Valley, Nebraska. Sarpy County is just south of Douglas County and includes the cities of Bellevue, Papillion, La Vista, Gretna, and Springfield, Nebraska. Let's look at the current inventory. Currently, we have 1,832 homes on the active market in Douglas and Sarpy County. That's up 22.7% compared to January of 2024. If we look back at inventory over the past 10 years, we have not had this many homes on the market since January of 2016. More inventory is great for those who can afford to buy. Buyers are out there, they just can't afford the payment at the current rate. If we separate existing from new construction, we have 1,003 new construction homes on the market, and that's up 9.9% compared to a year prior. And for existing homes, inventory is up a whopping 42.8% from a year ago. We currently have 828 existing homes for sale on the active market in Douglas and Sarpy County. What we are seeing in the market is that as time passes, more and more sellers are finally willing to put their homes on the market, and we see that in the stats. According to the National Association of Realtors, 30% of all repeat buyers were aged 65 to 74 years old. In fact, the median age of the repeat buyer was 61 years old. That's an all-time high. Many of these buyers are not as affected by mortgage interest rates. Only 69% of repeat buyers financed their purchase. That means 31% of repeat buyers were cash buyers. What was the motivating factor for these buyers? The number one reason for repeat buyers was the desire to be closer to family. In fact, I recently helped a great couple relocate from Florida, and they relocated to Bellevue to be closer to their grandkids. And guess what? They were cash buyers. Speaking of relocation, if you're moving to the Omaha area and if you need any assistance, my contact information is in the description below. What's going on with home prices? The median closed sales price in Douglas and Sarpy County in January of 2025 was $314,529, which is up 3.1% compared to January of 2024. If we compare new versus existing, for new construction, the median sale price was $417,495, which is up 1.7% compared to January of 2024. What about the decrease from 2023? On the surface, it could look like the new construction market has taken a hit. In 2023, the median sale price for new construction was $468,847, which is significantly higher compared to 2025. That looks like the new construction market has taken a hit, but that's not the case. What you're looking at are builders adjusting to the marketplace. And what you're really looking at is shrinkflation. Builders are starting to build smaller homes. If we look at the price per square foot for new construction over the past 3 years, we see an increase. And that's what builders do. They adjust to the marketplace. There is a limit. I recently attended a presentation by Jason Thielen, who is CEO of E&A Consulting Group. E&A is a civil engineering company here in Omaha, Nebraska. According to Jason, just to bring a lot from raw dirt to where you can build on it takes close to $90,000 to $125,000 here in the Omaha area. The other issue is time. He said 20 years ago, you could bring dirt to sticks in the area in around 11 months. Now, because of regulation, you're looking at 2.5 years. Time is money, and all of this adds to the price of building a home. I want to look at prices over the past 3 years. This is the month-to-month median closed sales price over the past 3 years. This is interesting because it shows the effect of interest rates. Typically, what you see is normal month-to-month fluctuation, and we also see seasonality. Every year, you see prices peak during the summer months. Typically, families with children like to move during the summer months. Normally, the larger homes have higher sales price. That's why you see prices peak in June. What's interesting when you look at this chart is that we see a little second peak in the month of November. Now, why is that? I think it shows when rates dipped in September of 2024. I think this reflects the market as a whole. If rates go down, more buyers would come off the sidelines. What about closed sales? Last month, we had 602 closed sales. That's a 4.3 increase from the prior year. On this chart, we're looking at closed sales, but this is where each data point represents 12 months of activity. On this chart, you're going to see the number of sales pre-pandemic were between 12 to 13,000 per year. During the pandemic market, sales exploded and we sold close to 14,000 homes per year. Then, when rates increased, sales dropped to below 11,000 per year. We can also look at closed sales on a month-to-month level. On this chart, we see the seasonality of the existing market. The red line represents the existing market. The sales bottom out in the winter, ramp up in the spring, peak in the summer months, and then decrease in the fall. The green line represents new construction. New construction sells all year long. We also see that new construction only represents a quarter of the number of total sales. How much do you save when rates dip? Let's look at a $350,000 loan amount. For this example, we're just going to compare principal and interest payments. A loan amount of $350,000 at a 7% mortgage interest rate for 30 years would be a monthly payment of $2,328.56. That's not including taxes and insurance. However, with a loan amount of $350,000 at a 6% mortgage interest rate for 30 years, your principal and interest payment would be $2,098.43. This means you would save $230.13 a month if rates were to drop from 7 to 6%. So when will rates drop? Nobody knows. The next question, should I wait for interest rates to drop? The problem with waiting is that when rates dip, activity increases, more buyers can buy, which will drive prices higher. This isn't the answer you would want to hear. You should only buy when you can afford to and when you are ready. There's never going to be a perfect time to buy. You don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. Speaking of mortgage interest rates, according to Mortgage News Daily, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is currently at 7.03%. How does the interest you pay factor into the total cost of the loan? If you had a purchase price of $350,000, and for this example, we had zero down payment, so your loan amount was your purchase price. At a 7% interest rate for 30 years, your payment would be $2,329 a month. If you paid your payment of $2,329 every month on time for the next 30 years, you would have paid back your $350,000 plus $488,281 in interest for a total cost of $838,281. Think about that. You paid almost $500,000 just in interest alone. What if each month you paid an additional $200 a month just to principal? Instead of paying off the loan in February of 2055, you would now have your home paid off in full in 2048, and you would save $122,121 in interest. Let's shift gears and go back to the stats. How long is it taking for homes to sell? It's taking longer for homes to sell. The median days on market for Douglas and Sarpy County is 16 days on the market. This means 50% of the homes sold in 16 days or less, and 50% of the homes sold in 16 days or more. Now, the really good ones sell quickly, meaning they're priced right and they're staged. If you're not priced right, your home is going to sit longer on the market. Homes that are overpriced stick out like a sore thumb. Good ones get snatched up quickly. If you need to do a price reduction, do one that is meaningful. Nobody gets excited about a $2,000 to $3,000 price reduction. You need to make it substantial so agents are excited to show buyers your property. What about months of supply? Overall, we had a 2.1 month of supply of homes on the market. If we look at new versus existing, we have 6.6 months of inventory in the new construction market and 1.1 month of inventory in the existing market. For review, 0 to 3 months of supply is a seller's market, 4 to 6 months of supply is a neutral market, and 6 months of inventory or more is a buyer's market. What about the percent of last list price? For new construction, homes were selling at 100% of the last list price. That makes sense. Builders have to make money. They have a margin. Typically, you won't see builders make concessions. Occasionally, some volume builders have deals on interest rates. Last month, I had a new buyer from Georgia, and he was able to get a great deal on new construction at a 5.5% interest rate. Speaking of relocation, if you're relocating to the Omaha area and if you need my assistance, my contact information is in the description below. For existing homes, last month, homes were selling for 98.8 of last list price. In the existing market, you're seeing more buyers doing inspections and asking for repairs. What about the median price per square foot? For this, we're going to look at a rolling 12 months where each data point represents 12 months of activity. We're going to look at the past 5 years. For new construction, we're looking at $257 a square foot. And for existing, we're looking at $212 a square foot. Let's look at lumber. Lumber is currently at $592 for 1,000 board feet. Last week, lumber shot up to $630 because of the possibility of a 25% tariff being imposed on Canada by President Trump. Since then, the tariffs have been postponed for a month and lumber has settled back down. 30% of the lumber we use in construction comes from Canada. Ultimately, if a tariff would be put in place, that cost gets pushed on to the consumer. That would make homes even more unaffordable. What about jobs? In the U.S., the current unemployment rate is at 3.8%, which is up from 3.5% from the previous year. Locally, in Douglas County, unemployment rate is currently at 2.9% compared to 2.5% from 2024. In Sarpy County, the unemployment rate was at 2.6%, which is up from 2.2% from the previous year. Let's take a look at inflation. The numbers have just come out for January. Unfortunately, inflation is heading in the wrong direction. Inflation is now at 3%. Since September, when the Fed reduced the Fed funds rate, inflation has been trending in the wrong direction. One of the culprits is housing. The cost of housing makes inflation sticky, meaning the cost of housing is slower to increase and doesn't change as quickly as other costs like gas and groceries. If the Federal Reserve sees inflation go higher, the Fed is less likely to lower the federal funds rate in order to keep inflation from getting out of hand. Even though the Fed funds rate is not tied directly to mortgage interest rates, the federal funds rate does have an indirect influence on mortgage interest rates. Now, if we see tariffs go into effect, that will also increase prices. When a tariff is imposed on a foreign country, that cost ultimately gets passed on to the consumer. Hopefully, tariffs will not be imposed, but the threat of a tariff could improve trade agreements currently in place.